Live chair.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Strategic Licensing Committee. I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Members of the public will be able to view the meeting using the link on the agenda. Apologies have been received from Peter Broomhall, and we have Councillor Joyce Barrow to substitute, and Kevin Pardy, the substitute, Caroline Bagnall, and Edward Chavez. One public question has been received from Mr. David Turner. I'll ask the solicitor to read out the question.
You have to bear with, it's quite long. So I note that there is an agenda item at this meeting regarding Statement of Licensing Policy 2024 to 29. There is apparently only fleeting reference to caravan sites. Shropshire Council's website carries details concerning the regulatory framework, that is, the mobile homes requirement for manager of site to be fit and proper person, England Regulations 2020, the regulations, which is a fit and proper person test for site owners or the person appointed to manage the site. The purpose of the fit and proper person test is to improve the standards of park home site management. The regulations apply to all relevant protected sites as defined in section 5A5 of the Caravan Sites and Control of Development Act 1960. This includes both wholly residential and mixed-use holiday and residential sites. The current pressure on the housing market means that more people are looking to park homes for permanent accommodation, and this may result in advantage being taken of vulnerable home seekers in some instances. Communities and local government guidance on the Shropshire Council website displays the model standards 2008 for caravan sites in England, Caravan Sites and Control of Development Act 1960, section 5. The local authority is required under section 25 of the Act to maintain an accurate register of the site licences in their area. Given the number of different types of sites that local authorities may deal with, it is recommended that the register shows what type of site each is, be it holiday, residential, mixed use or gypsy and traveller. It is recommended as a minimum the information the site register has is name and address of site, if available the Geographic Information Service mapping code should also be logged, name of the licence holder, the site owner of difference and any person managing the site on behalf of either of those persons, type of site, the number of pitches, the licence conditions if any. Other local authorities, including Cornwall, have refused site licences on the grounds of that the applicant is effectively a shell company with few or no assets. My question is that again.
Just more of that little tiny bit.
Oh, sorry.
What you said.
Other authorities, including Cornwall, have refused site licences on the grounds of the it's because the sentence doesn't make sense. On the grounds that the applicant is effectively a shell company with few or no assets.
Right, that's fine.
My questions are: 1, is there a regime of inspection by Shropshire Council? If so, where can it be viewed? 2, how many times in the past 5 years has action been taken in respect of non-adherence to the rules? If any, what sanctions have been imposed? 3, in the past 5 years, has Shropshire Council given consideration to the financial status of applicants? And 4, in the past 5 years, has Shropshire Council refused a licence application?
And in answer to those questions, question 1, a project to inspect every caravan site for the licence in the Shropshire Council area has recently been completed by the licensing team. The outcome of this was a risk-rated list of all licensed sites, which determines how frequently they will be inspected in the future, which is dependent on their risk rating. The inspection regime is part of the Council's management of caravan site licences and is not ordinarily public information or information which any relevant legislation required to be public. A freedom of information request could be submitted to request this information if required, and it will be considered in line with the Freedom of Information Act. Question 2. That was how many times in the past 5 years has action been taken in respect of non-adherence to the rules? if any, what sanctions have been imposed. This information is not readily available. To identify what action is being taken would require a manual process whereby each record would have to be looked at individually. Therefore, it would be a lengthy and time-consuming process for all the officers to provide this information. Question 3. In the past 5 years, has Shropshire Council given consideration to the financial status of applicants? And the answer to that is no. Question 4. In the past 5 years, has Shropshire Council refused their licence application? And the answer there is no. Thank you.
Just to clarify, there's a further paragraph on that statement. So the statement of licensing policy specifically relates to the Licensing Act 2003. There is no reference at all to caravan sites or caravan site licensing in the draft statement of licensing policy, because this is not a matter for the policy. It's not a matter that the policy is concerned with. So licensing of caravan sites would never appear in that policy.
We're allowed to ask a question.
Yes.
So is this ever going to change, or is this just going to be allowed because you don't know who's living in those caravans? You don't know whether they're financially viable, or whether, or has it got to be something that's put forward before they're allowed to have the caravans?
Right, this isn't about, sorry, the question is not about people who live in the vans. Excuse me, sorry, it's about the owners of the sites.
Yes.
Okay, so a licence is issued to an owner of a site, and there's a fit and proper person test under the Mobile Homes Act has to be applied to any person applying for a licence for a mobile homes site.
But so you don't check that though?
We do.
You do check it?
Yes, we do. We issue licences in accordance with that Mobile Homes Act, the requirement for a fit and proper person to own those sites.
Right, so they have got to, it's their responsibility, you're saying?
To demonstrate, yes, that they're
To demonstrate that they're
to hold
doing
the licence in the
Right,
site.
that makes it clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Councillor Shrewsbury.
Thank you. This the rules around this changed a year or so ago, didn't they? Could you just remind me what changed then? Because I do remember a discussion and how it affected licensing. So could I just have a recap on that? Thank you.
Yes, the Mobile Homes Act brought in the requirement for additional tests and requirements for applicants to mobile home site licence to be fit and proper. And that's what you're referring to. I did bring a report to the committee about that. And it put a stricter regime on the applicants and who can apply and who is suitable fit and proper to manage the sites as well. And so it brought in a whole additional regime for the authority to check those people and make sure that they are suitable to run those sites.
Sorry, can I come back again? So who checks that if you don't check it?
It's the local authority's responsibility to check it.
To check?
Yes.
To check the licenses of the people who are running the sites?
To check the applications, and then we recheck them periodically thereafter, yes, and do inspections of the sites. It's the local authority's responsibility.
Right. So why have I got this?
Sorry, Dave, there's other people waiting to speak.
Sorry.
Councillor Birchard.
Can I just say it's very, because I got down it's not available for public information. Why is it not available for public information?
But there's no requirement for it to be available all the time. Which question are you referring to, Councillor Harry?
What you were talking about before, when we were going through it, it says public information is not available at any time.
I think Councillor Parrish referring to question 2, so how many times in the past 5 years has action been taken?
Yes.
The response to that was it's not readily available, but it would
Yes.
be available under a freedom of information request. The authority
so
is
it's
required to
only
publish
done
that
that way.
information.
Right. Thank you. That's cleared all the points. Thank you. Didn't clear them, but it's meant clear to me. I think it's very, personally, I think there's a little bit of a there.
Any other questions? Councillor Burchett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question 3 regarding the financial status of the applicants. Am I correct in that the fit and proper person test doesn't look at their finances?
I think the question has been posed because there was a specific case in another part of the country about an applicant who, and this has been through courts and everything, an applicant who applied for a licence who were not financially stable enough in order to purchase the site, the land. So it was effectively a front for people hiding behind that in order to do that. So that licence was actually refused because they weren't financially viable enough in order to demonstrate that they could purchase the property, the land, and run that site. It was a specific case that was heard in another part of the country, and it's not, that case is not relevant to Shropshire. We do the checks in respect of the law and what's required in the law and the Act.
That's all.
Those are the checks that we have, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mandy.
Sorry, can I come back again? I have a problem at the moment that I have a drug dealer who has moved into my area, who is in a mobile home. I've asked the council to do something about it and they have done nothing.
Can we take that one outside of this meeting?
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
But it's very worrying when they're dealing with drugs for the whole town.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4, which is disposable pecuniary interest. Are there any to declare? No disposable pecuniary interest, thank you. Item 5, statement of licensing policy. Quite a comprehensive document, pages 5 to 150. Any comments from you, Mandy?
Just to let the committee know that it's a requirement of the local authority to review this policy every 5 years. So we're in that period now. So I'm just requesting it to go out to consultation for a revised policy after we've reviewed the responses to the consultation to come back to the committee later on this year for an agreed policy then to go to, we'll have to go to full council to be agreed to come into effect on the 1st of April next year. So it's just the first stage of that process is why I brought it to the committee today.
Fine. Councillor Isherwood.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask what, if any, are the sort of major changes to in this policy compared to the last one?
I'll be honest with you, very, very few. From a law and processing of applications point of view, there's hardly anything being changed at all. It was a very big change last time we did it 5 years ago, and really updated it. And as we are right now, there's very little. But if there is a requirement, that we do consult on the policy to make sure there is any representation of women that are considered. So that's where we're at right now.
Thank you.
Right. Apparently, I've skipped an item, so can we look at the minutes?
Do you want to just finish this item
Sorry.
first? Councillor Davis has a question.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Councillor Davis, can you just clarify how the consultation will take place? Is it a case of the parties and putting it online?
Yes. In the actual Act itself, it gives a list of required people to consult with, as well as licence holders, and along with general members of the public, and that will go on the council's website. But we will notify all the required people in the Act that we need to consult with, and that is part of this process.
Can I propose from the chair then that, sorry,
I
Councillor
was
Barrow.
going to propose actually.
Okay.
No,
You want
I'd like to propose that we go to consultation as the Monday.
Thank you. Councillor Evans seconding. All those in
Sorry, I
favour?
want to speak. I didn't have a hand.
Sorry.
Make I just speak. Yeah, if you want to make comments, do we make comments during the consultation process too, or can I raise a couple of things here now?
Sorry.
If we want to make comments ourselves on, do we make them through the consultation process, or maybe make a comment now?
Ideally, do the consultation process, and then there's an open process that everybody can see.
Yeah.
And view that, because I'll bring all the questions, any responses and representations back to the committee next time.
May I just raise one point out of a few I had?
What?
It's just on page 129, you talk about the the planning and the licensing regimes and how they fit together. And it says the planning authority notify people by letter. We haven't done that for a while on planning applications.
Okay, I can look at that.
So would you perhaps clarify that? We don't do that at all.
I'll take a note of that. and I'll
Yeah.
clarify it.
It just goes, site notices go up, but there's no writing to
That's right.
residents on that.
Thank you, councillor. So we've got a proposal. Second?
David, second.
Go. Right. Councillor Evans, all in favour? Thank you. I'm going to go back to item 2, which I missed, to approve the minutes of the meetings held on the 7th of December 2022 and the 11th of May 2023 as a true record. Councillor Birch's proposed, Councillor Evans seconding. All those in favour?
Abstention.
Yep.
Abstention.
Abstention.
I wasn't here. I was
2.
I abstain as well. I abstain as
Yeah.
well. I wasn't here. Sorry. Left.
Right, moving on. Exercise of delegated powers, pages 151 to 160. Again, another good report. Comments?
Thank you, Chair. This is the standard report that comes to the committee every time we meet. It just gives you all an idea of what types of licences that the licensing team have been processing and the volume of applications that are coming through. So it's just to note, the report is a recommendation just to note, but if you've got any questions, by all means, I'll try to answer those.
Councillor Isherwood.
Thank you. It's just regarding taxi licences. Given the sort of complaints that you and I were dealing with last year, have the changes been well received, and are applications stabilised or up or down on taxis and drivers?
We've actually seen an increase in volumes of applications for new drivers and vehicles over the last sort of 6 months or so. So it is actually doing it. It's an upward trend of applications coming to Shropshire.
Great.
Councillor Barrow.
A question I have mentioned it, I think, to the portfolio holder, and you may have mentioned it to you, Mandy. I was quite surprised to see that Shropshire Council use taxi drivers, ferrying school children, etc., who are not actually registered or licensed with us. They're licensed with another authority. Surely that should be something that we should insist on.
Unfortunately, Councillor Barrow, that is passenger transport who deal with the allocating vehicles to the children's journeys to and from school. Licensing.
Can you not connect those up?
We do as many checks as we can on our own drivers and vehicles. I've got no control over any decisions that passenger transport make as to allocating vehicles to journeys for children. They're fully aware of the processes that we have, but that is a process that they have in their own decision making in terms of who they allocate those contracts to.
Okay.
Councillor.
So, did I upset you? You sounded like you were.
No.
I see that, I'm very pleased to see it, that we have now got people that are taking up licences in the evenings. You know, this is one point where I'm sorry I wasn't here last year, but there we are. I honestly, could you tell me, are there taxis that are being taken up? Are we getting new people in Ludlow? Because we have no buses. We don't have taxis that want to go out to people only during the day. And I was told that by the taxi drivers. It's where time is going out at night, because we don't make any more money. Or we don't want to make any more money. We make enough during the day. So is it new taxi drivers we're getting in Ludlow in the evenings?
The licensed drivers for the whole of the county, it's their choice where they want to work.
Yeah.
So they have a licence which covers the whole of the geographical area of
anywhere.
Shropshire Council, so they can go wherever they want to.
That's good.
And so it's entirely their decision what they do with that licence once they've got it. So I can't confirm whether they want to work in Ludlow or not, because they're entitled to drive wherever they want to within the
Yeah.
county.
So that covers the whole county. Right, thank you.
Anybody else? Can I propose we note the report?
Noted.
Right. Take the next meeting, which will be on your papers, and it will be on the 4th of October 2023. But before we go, I think we've got one announcement from a certain solicitor on my right.
I just want to say this is going to be my last strategic licensing committee. I'm leaving the authority at the end of August and going on to pastures new. So I just want to say thank you for all of your time and effort that you put into the committee. It's been a real joy working with you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
One more thanks to you too. Best of luck for the future. Right, that concludes the agenda. Meeting closed.
This week at the pub.
No, the last time I went in, I was.
Where are you off to?
That's